Do you want me to get into Bray Wyatt? I would need like about 5 minutes. I would need like 5 minutes to tell you why not.
Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
So me and Austin actually spoke to Bray Wyatt in a hotel gym in the end of 2019, and he's a champion at the time. So Austin and Bray have a relationship where Austin was the first kid to get a photo with him, and Bray always remembers that. And it's a continual pattern of photos on a year-to-year basis. If I can bring that up, I'm only mentioning it because I think it's relevant to what I'm about to say. So. Also, like you always get guys on certain podcasts that dispute everything you say. You guys here, like, whereas Russo's got a very much like Russo audience who don't watch AEW. You guys are more split in the middle. Like you do have like a cool audience, but you also have like some like marks from Meltzer's from like who buy the Observer and cross over. Because like sometimes when I do this show, I do get some for some marks for certain things I say. So I'm going to just like talk about what I'm saying here. So this is okay. That's the newest, and that's the year before.
So he knows so he's known him for a while.
Yeah. So that's the year before that.
Okay.
You can see Austin's getting smaller.
Really small there. Yeah.
and that's 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how. So if he spots him, they'll talk. But this is the time where. He was talking to me because I think he's like over the years through small conversations he's figured out what I do, etc. And he was just like opening up, saying like this is not what I want it to be. Hell in a Cell was so bad. Like at this point he was the champion. He was going. They don't understand what I'm saying. They don't understand what I want this to be. He goes, well. He said to me, he goes, well, one person doesn't understand. He goes. I don't want to say. He goes. I take back what I said about. Them not understanding. He goes, we got a lot of really great young writers that know what I want it to be. He goes, but one guy doesn't understand what this is supposed to be. So I mean, he's telling me, he has a relationship with Austin, but I'm a relative stranger at this point. But you know, he wants to communicate to me that this is like this is not what his idea is. It's almost like he's defending it to a random person. Like, especially with me working in the wrestling media, perhaps, you know, wanting to get the message out to me that this is not what it's supposed to be. Almost like he wants me to report it. So I found that interesting, and I did report it. I said it straight away on my podcast that week. It wasn't said to me to keep it private. So moving on from that, and knowing that he's not happy with the character development, and he's not happy with what they're doing with his character, we already know that's already in the bank. Second of all, he left his wife for JoJo. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there was heat on him for that. And the WWE were dragged into court because his wife was disputing Bray Wyatt's earnings, and the WWE had to legally go to court, and it was embarrassing for them, where they had to actually send somebody to court to give like a full... basically, like it's called a fact-finding hearing, which is what she requested in terms of giving, like, you know, full disclosure as to what his earnings were, so that she would get the right settlement.
Okay, just let me cut you off here, Konnan. That's interesting because remember we talked about this and we said like one of the things he got rid of because he was dating one of the employees. You said that happens all the time. We know that, but this.
Yeah, I didn't think that would matter. Yeah,
right. But obviously, it did kind of matter in this case. Yeah, it sounds like right.
Billy, did he marry her?
Yeah, I think he's married to her now. He's got 2 kids with her.
Yeah, he's got. Right. I knew he had kids with her. Yeah.
Now you can put that on your checklist, Joe. Joe keeps up with who's dating who in the business, as if some chick, you know, broke up with somebody. Maybe he could slide in or something.
Right,
but go ahead, Billy.
Podcaster, no.
Right.
Well, this resulted in him being moved down to he was on the free show for WrestleMania. He was in the Battle Royal for WrestleMania, and then they just took him off TV entirely. And they were thinking about releasing him there.
Wow.
But they didn't. So he then came back with this brand new character, which we all know. And it was successful. It was the #1 merchandise seller above going toe-to-toe with Becky. But once Becky left, it was undisputed the #1 merchandise seller. Now, when Meltzer turns around and says that this was a cost-cutting measure, that isn't possible because the guy's on a $1 million downside guarantee contract and got paid $2.5 million last year. So if he got $2.5 million, $1 million of that would have been merchandise, and these guys only earn about 10% of their merchandise. So if the WWE sold $10 million worth of Bray Wyatt merchandise and he's on a $1 million contract,
they made money.
Explain to me how Dave Meltzer's calling that a cost-cutting measure.
Right. Well, that's probably what they're telling him.
Right. So that's another incorrect story from Dave. So the real issues behind here were there's a lot of mental health and I need time off. So there's already, we know about character disagreements. His wife had a baby in May 2019 and in May 2020. So he took a little bit of time off for the birth and the end of the pregnancy. Then he wanted time off at the end of the year for 3 reasons. Number 1, he's got a 6-month-old. Number 2, she's heavily pregnant. She's 6 months into her pregnancy. And number 3, he knew up front that his best friend was going to die. So some of these guys, they knew inside information in that they were actually able to visit the Mayo. Yeah, they were able to visit the Mayo Clinic. Big E and Bray Wyatt were able to were visitors who were kept in the loop about that entire thing. So a few guys at AEW, including Tony Khan, would have known 3, 4, 5 weeks before that happened that was going to happen because that had passed the point where he was going to make any kind of recovery. So that's why he wanted to take that time off because he had a lot of shit going on. You look at one pregnancy or one newborn is bad enough, but then to have one and then to have another one due immediately after. I mean, she got pregnant, gave birth, and then got pregnant again
3 months later. Yeah.
As soon as it, and I don't know if this is scientific fact, but I don't think you can even get pregnant again for the first 6 weeks after you give birth. But I think as soon as she could, she did. So he wanted time off to deal with all of that. When he came back for WrestleMania as planned, he wasn't ready to come back. He told him he wasn't ready to come back. Vince McMahon decided he didn't look ready to come back. So that whole Orton thing didn't make sense to a lot of people, but it did when you know the background of the story. Now, when he comes back, when he plans to come back here for SummerSlam, and they pitch a storyline to him, and he doesn't want to do it, at this point, this is why they decide to do the release. Now, I always, as I said on Vince's show, Drew McIntyre should never, ever have taken that sword because he changed from a legit person that got over to a gimmick. You go backwards. You don't go, you only take on a gimmick if you're not over, but he's already over. So he didn't need that sword. And the fact that he gets up at 7 a.m. every day and does media for them for 5 hours, he had worked himself in a position where he could have said, no, I don't want to have this sword because I knew he wasn't, keen on it from the start. But he didn't. Bray Wyatt is the opposite. He's had time off for mental health issues, time off for pregnancies, time off for births, time offs throughout most of 2020 and 2021, and he's clashed heads with them creatively. So when you come back after they've given you every single minute that you wanted off and even extended your time off when you weren't ready for WrestleMania, how can you have a creative clash with them? You can't do it. So as much as everybody's going to take Bray Wyatt's side, and we saw how that was spun on the internet, and they have fired a lot of people, you have to go 50-50 here and say, look, they gave him a lot of leeway. They gave him a lot of time off. They really did play ball with this guy. And if you want to get your creative ideas across, you have to actually be there. You can't just win when you want time off and win when you want the creative done your way. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that Vince McMahon is less creative than Bray Wyatt, and Bray Wyatt's ideas are better. But you have to actually be there to get those across. And if he's not going to be there, he hasn't got a leg to stand on when he's having conversations in July and trying to tell them what he wants to do on TV when they want him to lose to Bobby Lashley. So,
well, that's the thing is Vince, we called this weeks ago, is that, bro, Vince is an old school guy that shows up for work every week and everything. He doesn't have time for like this. He doesn't have time for the guy that needs time to miss time off, miss work, and do this. I don't like my career. The
guy tore both his quads and showed up for work, bro.
Yeah, and it's they're looking. You're in that room. You got guys like Nick Khan and everything. We got 207 contracted wrestlers. We don't need this guy. Let's bring somebody else. It's you're only going to get addition by subtraction on that show. If the feeder system. Those guys they're paying these people to train that are never going to get on TV unless you get rid of some of the people that you've had on TV.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, and let me just say this, and I like the way you put that in context, Bill. It makes a lot of sense, and I think you are correct. But I would say this. It must be mega frustrating for him, albeit everything you said, and you do make a very valid point, that he got over with that family gimmick big time. And he could have been a humongous star, and they dropped the ball once. Somehow he was able to survive that, recuperate, resuscitate himself, and come up with a great. I loved the Funhouse because it was out of the box and all that. Once they brought in Alexa and the throwing up and the Lily and all that, they lost me. But I thought that was great idea, and for a creative person like him, must be very frustrating to see them it up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, you know, you do make a very valid point. And the other thing I will say, me and Disco were bringing this up because I thought Drew McIntyre was putting on the performances of his life as a wrestler and on the mic. And he looks mega JoJo with that sword between his leg like it's supposed to be his and it's I don't know what the they did with this poor guy. And now they got him against Shantae and Vanani or whatever the those guys' names are, the Indian guys. It's like, that's not when, bro, he had a handicap match. Let me know the last time two guys in a handicap match won. They were already waiting for him in the ring and they run away from him. It's like, really, this is what you're doing to Drew? So I'm kind of hot at that.